Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Video World. I am Nick, and welcome back to yet another episode of V. I'm not going to try the rest. VHS Roulette. And before we start on the film, I have a couple things that I've received or found recently, and I'm going to share them with you. So first, I found this in a estate sale, and it's pretty strange, at least to me. It's the novelization of Cheech and Chong's next movie. It's a little damaged, but yeah, it's. Now, this is one film. There are many films, I guess, but this is one film that I would not imagine that they would make a novelization on. Like, Dick Tracy? Yeah, sure. Batman, any of those, it would make sense. But this in particular, it doesn't really lend itself to print. So I'm excited to look at that. And you're thinking, okay, how are they going to, make a novelization out of something like this? Well, they kind of just put a lot of pictures in there. And, but I can't wait to read it. Anyway, my friend Josh and Katie, they both came visiting from Minneapolis, and I got this from him. It was actually, we watched about half of it. I'm going to watch the rest a little later from Maniac Video, The Beast and the Magic Sword. So this has Paul Naschy, I think that's how you say it, as a werewolf, and there's ninjas, and there's a lot of kung fu and blood and guts. And so, thank you, Josh. Love both of you guys. Onward. Let's do this. So, today's movie I got a little while ago, and taken my time watching it, but I'm glad I did. This one was a very interesting one. So, today's film is 1998 Aberration. So, yet another film that the cover has nothing to do with the film. This might actually be the lead actress because it kind of looks like her, but there are no lizard women in this film. There's a regular woman, but she's not a lizard. Unless you're of the opinion that, all the actors and actresses in Hollywood are lizard people, then you're out of luck. Anyway, so the movie starts off with our heroine, Amy, moving to this kind of out of the way town in the woods, and it kind of seems like she's running away from something, like someone is after her because she's very kind of like secretive and not very trusting of the people she talks to or anything. So she moves into this cabin in the middle of the woods, and while she's moving in, there's also a guy kind of roaming the woods, finding just like big piles of slime that he looks at and he kind of takes note of. And you see him a couple times while she's setting up her cabin. He just keeps finding these big piles of slime. And so that's going on. And so while Amy is going through her cabin, which I think probably belonged to her family because there's older pictures of her in it, and but it doesn't look like anybody's been there in a while because it's piles of dust and everything. So she's setting everything up. She goes to the fireplace to open that up, and she gets some kind of goo dripped on her head, and and then after that she goes to the shed where the generator is for the electricity. And while she's in there, she gets more goo dripping on her. So she's just getting lots of goo dripped on her a lot. So that's spooky right off the bat. Some goo. So the guy finds goo. There's goo. There's just goo everywhere. Uh, so, oh, that's another thing. She has a cat. There's a lot of good cat scenes in this film. Uh, I rate films. I give them, a little extra star or bone or whatever you give films if there's a cat in there and if that cat has some good scenes in it. And so this movie right here gets an extra kitty paw because it has a cat in it and there's some good cat action. I'm going to tell you right now, because it's a horror film, the cat might die, but you don't actually see it, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, I'm gonna spoil that for you because it might be upsetting to younger viewers. After that, she notices that her cat food is gone, and she's like, "My cat doesn't eat that fast," and that's a realistic thing because if you own a cat, you do know how fast they eat, you know how much they eat, and how much they shit. So after that, we get a nice scene of her relaxing in the bathtub, and it's not really like an erotic scene because she has like an eye mask on and those gloves that you kind of wash your face with, and so it's a very I mean, she is in the tub, and there's like the sweeping camera movement, and everything. But I really like that we kind of get to see a scene of like a normal girl taking a bath, not like a woman just like oh, just like a real woman with an eye mask and some gloves and doing it the right way. So uh, eventually, her generator fails all of a sudden, and she's got to go to the general store to get another one. Um, so while she's at the general store, she meets up with Marshall, the man who's wandering the woods, also finding goo, but he is a scientist, I think. Uh, and then you kind of know these two are gonna get together some way or another. And so she thinks that there's something, some kind of insect, some kind of animal eating her cat's food. So she gets some poison for her house, which, hey, that's a great idea. But the guy has some really awkward conversation with her at the store, and he's just, I don't like Marshall at all. I'm going to say right off the bat, I don't like Marshall. I wanted him to get eaten by whatever this is almost right away. He says one thing that I was like, what are you talking about? Because she buys some poison for whatever is in her house, and he goes, gotta be careful with that. If you got a leak, you got leukemia. It's like, really, Marshall? Just, just shut up, okay? Shut the fuck up, Marshall. Anyway, so she gets back. Cat's dead. I'm sorry, but there were some really good cat scenes before we find the fake dead cat body, so it's okay. Pretty soon she finds out, and this is the big reveal here. Our monster is geckos. A lot of geckos. And I'm not talking the Geico commercial gecko. I'm talking evil little slimy geckos with really sharp teeth, and they move super fucking fast. And so uh, she somehow knows the gecko is around because her fish, she also has fish, they start going nuts. Um, and so she's got to kill him. Somehow or another, Marshall ends up at her house to basically help her get rid of these animals. And one of the geckos actually spits like a line of gecko spit in Marshall's eyes, and he goes blind, like completely blind. So they also have special spit powers to spit in people's eyes. So they have teeth, they have special spit, and they are really, really fast. So, okay, so the rest of the movie, basically is about Amy Marshall trying to kill these killer geckos that, first they eat her cat, and then for some reason she throws one into her fish tank and they eat her fish. And they're just eating everything, trying to bite them, stalking them. There's like 20 of them. And at one point, Marshall finds one and dissects it, and he's like, "Oh no, it's missing its eggs." And I'm like, "Oh great, so there's gonna be like 20 more of these things." They have to go up into the attic, and there's like a huge nest of them there, and like there's a lot of just like squishing eggs. There's a whole like montage of people just like squash, 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 squashing these fucking eggs. And yeah, Marshall gets blinded, so he's blind for a while, but he doesn't stay blind. Oh, another thing. So this movie is filmed in New Zealand, and so most of the actors are clearly Kiwis, but except for our lead, what's her name? Pamela Gidley, who does an excellent job of, just being herself. So I want to kind of get into Pamela Gidley because she was excellent in this film as kind of like a really tough girl, and she pretty much defends herself the whole time because Marshall's pretty ineffectual and kind of a wuss the whole time. But she has been in some really great movies. She's in one of the greatest skateboarding movies of all time, Thrashin'. She was the love interest in Thrashin'. She was also in Dudes. She was in Cherry 2000. And she played a pretty integral part in Twin Peaks' Fire Walk with Me. And she was just a great actress. Sadly, she died last year. She died. And it's a real bummer because I thought she was fantastic in this. I've liked her in everything I've ever seen her in. But yeah, she died. It says undisclosed, so a little mystery there. Anyway, so back to the film. So they're smashing all the eggs and killing lizards that are popping out. Oh, like I said, so they throw one into her fish tank and they think they've killed it, but then it starts like growing gills. So these things are just rapidly kind of adapting and getting better and better, whatever that word is, mutating. And so, to throw a monkey in the wrench, all of a sudden, we find out why Amy is on the run. We finally find out that she's on the run from her ex-boyfriend, who she was a criminal with, and she stole a lot of his money and then ran away. So she's got a checkered past. He comes back. Somehow he's found her. I don't know. Maybe it's because she ran away to her old family cabin. Like, how hard is that for him to find it? Anyway, so Yuri is played by the young bad guy kid from The Saint. That's the only other movie I've seen him in. If you haven't seen The Saint, it's a fantastic Val Kilmer film. It's probably the best Val Kilmer film other than Top Secret. Really great. He wears a lot of different mustaches and wigs and has a lot of stupid accents in that film, but this kid is in it and he's very good. And he also plays Yuri. So Yuri shows up. He's like, "Where's my fucking money? Where's my fucking..." And he's like threatening everybody. But of course, he doesn't know the house is filled with killer geckos. And when he's threatening the two of them, he comes into the cabin and he's threatening both of them in the bedroom. The geckos start coming out of everywhere. They've already killed a bunch, but they're still coming. So he does some insane, kind of over-the-top gun moves. He's like... It does like the crossover gun. So there's like a weird little John Woo moment when he's just like shooting shitloads of geckos and they're just falling and dying. So That's pretty cool. And then he ends up getting his face eaten off. Um, I'm just kidding. I'm not ruining that for you. No, he's fine. He's perfectly fine. Anyway, so yeah, so this is like a straight up, very kind of old school creature feature, just fun time. Like I know it's hard to imagine a bunch of killer geckos chasing after a woman and her idiot friend, scientist, whatever he is, Marshall. I know it's kind of hard to imagine that being interesting, and especially because most of the action takes place in this cabin. At one point, they do leave and they go back to the general store, and the woman working there, she gets her face eaten off too. But yeah, it's just like it's fun, and they do have a tendency to, so they think they kill all of them, and then there's another one, and then there's another one. At one point one of them's like trying to wriggle its way into Amy's arm, and just like, and so that's pretty gross. But they do keep showing up, and then their whole plan with every time they show up is they just blow up wherever they are. So they fucking blow up the cabin, they blow up the general store, they blow up the neighbor's house that they go to, and he's like, got his face eaten too. They really love face meat. Like they are very particular. Anyway, so it's fun, and there's they even blow up the car, because the geckos end up in the car. Anyway, it's called Aberration. The late great Pamela Gidley is in this. She's very good. If she wasn't really good, because this guy Simon Basel, who plays Marshall, he's very annoying, and maybe in other films he's good. In this, I just wanted him to shut the hell up, but it's fine. Overall, the film is fun in a very easy way, and I think you should give it a try. I'll put a link to the full film on YouTube, and I hope you watch it. I hope you enjoy it. Have a great day. I hope you had a great St. Leprechaun's Day. All right? Have a go.